This is called Dialogue, widening your horizons.
Hello and welcome back to Durian ASEAN. You're with Gowri.
This is Grace.
This is Arlene.
And we are moving on to our ABC Dialogue for Friday morning.
Yay!
And of course, anything can happen Friday, and we have a very interesting discussion that is about to take place. We have a producer, a film producer, who has joined us in the studio today, and her name is Sharon. Let's say hello to her.
Hey, Sharon!
Hello, good morning.
How are you today?
I'm very well,
I
thank
can't
you.
really see your face actually from this
So early in the morning, and then you're bringing us posters.
Thank you so much for the lovely, huge posters.
Not at all, yeah. I mean, thanks for having me here. Thank you.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, what kind of work do you do?
Oh, of course, yeah, sure. I'm a film producer. I mean, I've just recently produced my first feature film, which is Lelaki Harapan Dunia, or English title Men Who Saved the World. My background, prior to this, I was in distribution, in film distribution. I used to work for Sony Pictures Malaysia, and then I did my master's in European Culture Policy and Management. So I lived in the UK for a number of years, and when I came back, I started doing more independent film kind of publicity for the marketing and publicity.
Oh, you actually came back.
Yes.
So you are those very rare Malaysians that actually decided to come back to Malaysia and contribute something.
Really, really rare.
So you could be the Sharon. You could be the Sharon who saved the world, not Malaysia.
Oh wow, no, that would be such a
Sharon who saved Malaysia.
Save Malaysia. Come back.
No. It's also when I came back that I met up with Singh. I've known Singh for a long time, the director of the Lelaki Harapan Dunia. But because we were classmates in university, in multimedia university. But we've not really worked together professionally before. And when he started telling me about this story, and I really, really liked
what story is that?
The premise of the film, and that's how I got involved. The story, it's essentially about. It's a comedy drama about how the shadow of an African immigrant in an abandoned house was mistaken as the ghost, the Orang Mia, and then it caused a series of mishap and misunderstandings in a quaint little Malay village. And one of the key features of the film is it features one of the age-old tradition, the Malay tradition of carrying house, whereby a group of men come together to physically carry a house to move it from one place to another.
So this is what moving houses supposed to be. It's like you literally carry it, not just like moving the furniture.
Absolutely, yeah. So people move house, they say, okay, we move furniture, move our mattresses, etc. But when you say move the house physically, that is quite rare, and that's very interesting.
It's funny because when I was a kid, the first impression, the first knowledge that there's this culture called moving house in Malay kampungs that I know, it was actually from an advertisement in the 90s.
Yes.
And Malik Noor was one of the actors in it.
It was Shell Talks advertisement.
Shell Talks,
yes.
yeah.
I think everyone
still remember.
I don't know what you guys talking
really
about, you old people.
Oh dear. It's suddenly showing our age now. Okay, I'm going to stop right there.
How long have you been in the film or the art industry itself in Malaysia?
Wow. If you discount the time that I was away in the UK, it's probably nearly 10 years
nearly
or so.
10 years.
Yeah. Towards 10 years, yeah.
And how did you start out? Like you said earlier, you were working with Sony for a bit. How did you get from there to becoming a producer?
Okay. Because of when I graduated from university with a degree in film and animation, which was more animation based actually. So when the opportunity to join Sony came about, I took it because it was very interesting to see the business aspects and to learn about distribution and marketing, which I did. I learned a huge load. Because I've taken that path, so I didn't really think very much about going to producing side. It was by chance, really. The opportunity came when I met up with Singh Tat and he started talking about all this, and also the experience of studying and living abroad, because my thesis was about independent cinemas in the UK, and I learned about the funding side of it, policies, etc. So I thought combining the knowledge of this business aspect and also the funding aspect that I learned, how I can contribute to this particular project. Because Lelaki Harapan Dunia, we got supported by organizations from 7 countries. It supported grant in Malaysia by the KKMM, Kementerian Komunikasi and Multimedia, and from the Torino Film Lab in Italy, and the World Cinema Fund from Germany, the Netherlands Film Fund, and the Hugo Boss Fund, also the Prince Claus Fund from the Netherlands. And then there's the Fondation Gun from France, the Sundance Institute from the US, and also the Vision Sud-Est from Switzerland.
How many countries did you lobby actually to get 7?
And this is what we got. I mean, we applied for more than that for sure. And but it's just a mosaic of funding. When you approach a story that is not your typical, I would say typical mainstream, as in your typical love story or your typical action or horror.
So people, it's predictable, the storyline.
Yeah, or rather what you see all the time. And we call mainstream, typically what the Hollywood
storyline
set, that kind of
So
standard.
instead of just like ghost, you actually have orang minyak.
It's just that when a film tries to explore a bit different, this is a film about people, about perception, about community living. Because the idea is all about when people come together to do something, it creates this kind of magic that we can achieve something, but it also can also break people apart when there is things that they don't believe in, and also sometimes when there is a herd mentality, when there's something that some person say is this, like the orami and all that, everyone just start to believe there is one. So it's plays
quite common, isn't it?
It plays with superstition, and it's also a touch on superstition, which is very inherent in our culture, actually in the West as well. And one of the reasons why we got funding from all these places is because they saw a universal theme. I mean, it's a very local story, which is shot here. It's in Basel,
so they are
Malaysia.
like, okay, we have that, so we are funding you.
They saw that because comedy is also a very hard thing, because you're never quite sure whether it translates.
Right.
Yeah, but thank goodness so far we've been playing we've been playing at 7 countries. We've been to about 9 festivals now. People are laughing at the right places and seems to be enjoying it. Yeah.
But did you actually have to finish the film to get the funding, because they usually want to see bits of footages or not?
No, we closed financing before we shot the film.
Okay.
So everything is very clean. So you close the financing and then you start filming.
Yes.
Wow.
We because it was taken us a number of years. I mean, I started this project in 2010.
Okay.
So now it's on screen in Malaysia. It's 2014 already. We pitched. We have to do live pitching sessions in Italy, especially to a live pitch is into a huge audience.
You had a translator?
No, we pitch it in English.
Okay.
Yeah. We have to we submit the scripts and you have to do a series of application requirements. Right. Yes. Yeah.
But the fact that Sundance came in is very impressive, because it's one of the hardest festivals to get in, and also the toughest one to get grants.
Absolutely.
Because they have very, very high standards from what I read.
I mean, they are one of the most supportive institute, really, because it's not just giving the money part. They are very supportive throughout the whole process of development.
Okay.
In terms of script, I mean, Saint Art actually developed the script in a few number of places. First was the Cine Fondation, which is the Cannes residency in Paris, and then he also went to Torino Film Lab and also the Sundance Screenwriters Lab. So they were very supportive, Sundance. Even throughout the process of production, post-production, they always give feedback and advice. If there's anything you need in terms of experts' advice, they would set it up. So we have Skype session. Yeah.
Let's talk about the story. We talk too much on the production side. It's getting a bit dry.
All right.
So about the story, I want to start first with why you choose a Malay team, focusing on the Malay community.
It's not a specific or conscious decision to choose a Malay team. It's just that the idea, we was really inspired by the Angkat Rumah, which is the Malay culture. So you can't have a group of different race to do it. So it was exploring that part of it. Yeah.
So where did you actually do the shooting and all that, and even choose the cast? Because it's quite you choose a lot of different people from different backgrounds. You even have some of the villages there, is it?
Yes, of course, yeah. We were very blessed and lucky to have a stellar lineup. When Singh wrote the script, he had in mind to work with some veteran actors in this country. And when the script was completed, we approached them one by one. They do not know us. So we introduced ourselves, and of course they were convinced by the script. One Hanafisu, who plays Pa Awang, read the script the day we gave him the script. The next day he called us up. He said, I would like to do this because I've been waiting for this script, this kind of script for a long time, and that gave us a huge boost of confidence.
Even the film veterans are like, we are waiting for good films to get in.
Yeah, so you're very blessed that way. We were to answer your first question, we shot the majority of our film in Kuala Kangsar, in a little place called Padang Rengas, with quite a number of kampongs in Padang Rengas, and it's a picturesque location. We were very lucky to be able to shoot most of our scenes there. There was 2 days in KL. It was a 40-day shoot.
40-day shoot.
Yeah, 40-day shoot.
So the story itself, how did he develop the story into something that is very unique? You have like an African guy acting in it.
Yes, Solomon. His real name is Khalid Hussein. Okay. He's from Tanzania, and he is a student here. I mean, he was a student. He's graduated, and he also does stand-up comedy. Actually, we had an open audition, and there were many people who came, and he stood out. And I think his stand-up comedy timing helped him. This is his first acting debut, I would say.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
In Malaysia instead of in Tanzania.
Yeah.
So you gave a good platform for him to, debut as an actor.
Oh, we like to think so. I hope so.
And the story. How else did he develop the story besides that? In terms of the setting, the timing, and all.
Singta actually had this idea way before. This is his second feature film. His first feature film is called Flower in a Pocket, which was released back in 2007 or 8. Okay. He had this idea, this Lucky Harapan Junior idea, way before Flower in a Pocket. But it was a film that requires a larger scale in terms of production, and also in terms of
funding.
It needs funding, and also it needs to mature. The script needs time, and that's why he decided to do another one first, Flower in a Pocket, in a much simpler scale, but still the story is strong, but in scale in terms of production, it was only main cast probably 3 people, versus this one that we had a lot of people. In Lucky we had even 70 people just to carry the house in that particular scene. So
I can imagine ensuring 70 people to comply.
It was a huge challenge. The most memorable scene to shoot for sure, because we were in a jungle, and because the premise of the story is he wanted to move this abandoned house from the jungle to the village, so we can't have people bulldozing and walking all over the foliage, and it has to be one take, because once they walk through the path, it doesn't look real anymore. It doesn't look abandoned. It doesn't look abandoned anymore, that place. So the extra, because we had a lot of extras, and extras are not acting professionals, so they will have tendency to look at the camera, and all. But what really helped was this tradition, because we built a real house. It's not a cardboard or a fake house. It was real. We collected woods from old houses, broke them down, and assemble and rebuild.
Okay.
So
wait, you rebuilt an old house?
Yes.
Wow.
We did, yeah.
I thought it was like a real old house, because in the posters it looks like it was there for probably 100 years ago.
Yes. Our production designer team did really, really well.
Amazing.
Yes. Yeah. We bought 3 old houses, broke it down, and then rebuilt, and then age it down. To make it look really, really abandoned. So, and then the path, we had to cross a little stream, and it was there was a little hill. So in the film, you will see at one time the house actually tilted. And visually it's really amazing, but as a producer, I was sweating buckets. Okay?
Of course.
If there's any safety issue,
of course.
Yeah, of course, I was very concerned.
And you have
but it
a
was
scene
good.
where some of the cast were cross-dressing. Did you actually get into any problem with the censorship?
No, really, no, because I think the context of the film was it's not to make fun or anything. They came up with this idea because they wanted to protect the kampung, because the orang Minyak the myth is that orang Mia will come out at night to rape women, especially virgins. So they thought they have to protect the women folk of the kampung. So they all start to cross. So the women wear male clothing, and the male went to wear all this baju kurung.
That's why we have to watch it.
Yes, and it was fun to shoot. Let me tell you, the actors were having a ball, and there were extras as well, and they were borrowing clothes from their wives, and they had a ball because at one time when I was visiting them, and this guy, because he had kind of a bit of a stomach belly, yeah, he was carrying it like he was. I was thinking, did you write like a pregnant lady into the film, or what is this character? And he was just having so much fun. It was fun to watch.
So they use like fake boobs also?
No, they didn't do that. They didn't go to that extent. It's just that what the actors told me is because men, when they wear their trousers, the belly's tucked in. So when they wear baju kurung, it kind of just
let it out.
So that was the reason. I felt so embarrassed asking him, but yeah.
So we are going to take a short break. Okay. So when we come back, we'll talk more about the film.
Okay.
ASEAN Breakfast Call Dialogue, widening your horizons.
Hello and welcome back to Durian ASEAN. You're with Gowri.
You're still with Grace.
And this is Arlene as usual.
And we still have Sharon, who is here with us.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
So I think Grace has a question for you.
Yes, Grace has a question for Sharon. Okay. Well, we've just shared about how interesting it was to make this film, and then also sort of come to reality to produce this film. But however, I believe that there is always ups and downs and challenges throughout this progress, right? What is your most difficulties that you faced?
I wouldn't say most. I would say different stages of it. I faced various difficulties, and number one was funding. So it took us a number of years to really put this mosaic of funding together, and also managing that part is not easy. It's nice to hear that you have funding from 7 organizations, but when you think about managing that, everybody's expectation, and also the deliveries and complying with everything, there's that part of the challenge. And of course, it's my first feature film, and just the scale of it, putting everyone together and creating the environment for the director and the team to shoot the film, and also the distribution side currently, with all the campaign and all. So each stage has its own challenges.
Actually, though, when it came to the challenge question, the first thing hit my mind was how would you stand out from all this mainstream industry, the film industry, because you mentioned the funding. So people, all those organizers or the company or production, they will look for the promising the film when it comes to actors and actresses as well, and the production team as well. Absolutely. So they will go for that directions. But how did you overcome that challenge?
What did you tell them?
Yeah, what did you tell them to convince them to fund your production?
Because this film is funded by grant, so the objectives are very different from private investors or even companies, studios. Because companies and studios, they have to look at the return of investment in monetary terms, because filmmaking is a very high risk business. There's never a guarantee that it will make it.
Yep.
You can have the top actors, the best script, even that sometimes it doesn't work. So our film, the grant that we approach and that has supported us, look for a story that is different, a story that maybe if you go the normal route may face difficulties in getting funding. So they want to see human stories that people can connect, stories that you don't usually get on the mainstream.
You get a lot of comedians in it. You even get a civil activist / comedian, Hishamuddin Rais.
Yeah, but Hishamuddin Rais is also a director and actor himself, and that was the starting point really. And because Saint Tat has always really wanted to work with some of the local comedians, veteran comedians, and to explore the serious side of them. Because the film is a situational comedy. It's in the dialogues and in the situation rather than in the actions.
That's interesting, because usually when comedians they go serious, it's a 50-50 chance that people will actually accept it.
Yeah, true, you know. But they were very good. They were very good in the film. The energy created by the cast, and Wan Hanafisu is a very inspiring figure. The minute we got him on board, everyone was, you can feel like, you know, and when he's on set, he really inspires the rest of the actors. And that makes a huge difference.
But what encouraged you or motivated you to do films like this as opposed to just resorting to the mainstream ones and making
You know,
money
this is
from
like
it?
her first film.
You asked me about my personal motivation of taking on this project. It's very simple. There's only 3 reasons really.
Yeah.
One is the story, because the premise of the story is very interesting. We have seen Angkat Rumah in documentaries, or probably heard of it, and never really see it really. Like for me, I came from a generation that have heard but not really seen this whole culture. And visually, if you translate this on a big screen, this whole house being moved by a group of men is really interesting. And how Seng Tat managed to interweave all these different subject themes, you know, around Mia and all, into this story. It's a fiction, it's a feature film, fictional film. But it really excites me, and I've not seen it, I've not heard of it, and also because of Seng Tat, and I've known him for a long time. I really believe in his sense of humor. He has a very unique comedy voice in the work that he does. Yeah.
But this is also his first feature film, right?
No, second feature.
Second
feature.
The first one was
Flower in the Pocket.
Yeah, it's funny because many Malaysians have really bleak outlook when it comes to like the fate of the film industry in Malaysia. In fact, for me, even personally, unfortunately, the last Malay film that I watched was Sepet, directed by Yasmin Ahmad. So is Seng Tat trying to carry on that spirit, you know, like made in Malaysia is actually not that bad?
Yeah, well, the thing is, for the industry to grow as a whole, we need variety. Variety in all factors. In terms of the films, we cannot be just homogeneous. You know, those kind of horror action. It's nothing wrong with that. But we just need more.
You need better.
I wouldn't say better, but we just need variety.
I just feel that we need more elements.
More elements, correct.
Yeah,
There's
to
too many
look
stories
for.
to be told here.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we need to find that. And actually, you know, to answer your question, also Grace, your question earlier about the challenge, is really the challenge here is to instill confidence in the Malaysian audience for Malaysian film. I think our audience have lack of confidence, and especially this year, you see the market of the box office for Malaysian film is really not looking great, and you can see the confidence waning. We don't have much to start off with, and if we lose them, and then you know it becomes like, oh dear.
And also, I have another question, which is, as a producer, you want to have your own touch when it comes to film. I mean, it's your first film, but starting with this project that you've already started, what is your signature when it comes to your film? Because every movies and every producer behind, we look forward to see that each person's touch in the particular film.
Actually, you're right, because
I would love to ask you what do you look for when it comes to filmmaking? What is your touch and what is your signature in that film?
I hope to develop a signature, you know, soon. But
so whenever we see film, like look for it, like Sharon's film. Oh yeah, that's the part that's so Sharon.
Actually, that's true. I mean, I want to add on because when it comes to Christopher Nolan films, we talk about this off air. Whenever he make a film, regardless whether it's Batman or Interstellar or even his previous movie Mementos, we know what to expect. It will always be something like. You would actually question yourself when you watch the film. You won't be just like viewing it for the sake of viewing it. But for you, like what kind of element that you is like totally your element that you want to impart to the audience that is unique?
Just connection, human connection, a story that can touch you. When I read script, if this story can connect with me, then there's a chance, or I will look into it more.
So it must touch your heart.
Yeah, because films are that, you know, even commercial films, it's just that they must create that connection with the audience. When you make film, you know, you have people who say they make film for themselves. It's fine, but you make film, to me, you make film is you want to connect with people, and there must be something that can do that. The directors tends to have more of a style. If you ask about style and the visual style, story style and all. As producer, you just look for good script and good story, because it's a long process making film. And if the story doesn't attract you, doesn't interest you, it's very hard to sustain that motivation. Like for this particular project, 4.5 years. If the story didn't interest me in the beginning and I didn't believe in it, it would be very hard to sustain this 4.5 years to keep fighting.
But what is the feedback from the younger generation? Did they approach you and tell them what do they feel about this film? Lelaki Harapan Dunia?
Lelaki Harapan Dunia has been in the cinema since the 27th of November. We had our premiere on the 24th of November. It has thus far created and has been inspiring a lot of conversation and dialogues. I know you guys probably picked up on them as well. And also some controversy. With some people, you make film, you cannot expect everyone.
You want to untangle some of the controversies that they raise?
Because you cannot expect everyone to like them, but you just hope that there will be more people who does, and versus not those who doesn't. The controversy was all about, some individuals came out to say that the film was making fun of the Malay, making fun of the religion, etc., and they felt very angry, offended and all. But these are just a few individual, and quite emotional, because I would say that as it is very hard, like we said, our film industry. So it gets very disappointing when you have people in the industry coming out to say that we should boycott this film, etc. And that was part of the controversy. It's never our intention to make fun. When you tell story about people, you get different point of view, and if you are looking to just hone in on the negativity, you'll find it. You'll find some loophole here and there, and this. But if you're looking at the positive side of it, you will find the positive side of it for sure. But so far, the dialogue that he has created and the conversation that he has created gives us hope. Like people are analyzing this film beyond, it's like a field day trying to decode all the subtext. So, as the person behind the filmmaker, it's interesting how people see different things, and it's great when something that you create can allow people to do all that. So in some ways disappointed with people who say you should boycott it, and which I don't get why. But it's great that we are able to get people to talk about it as well. So.
I think if you were to look at it, art is always seen as something that captures the way things were at a certain point of time, even in painting or theatre or what. So for you to do a film about this is merely just to like you said, to revive it, because you see it in documentaries and all, but you don't see this actually being in a film. So you're just trying to put it out there to give more exposure to people.
So that they have an opportunity to see this culture, and also the internal side of the value of this culture. What does it say? About this people coming together. It's about people and perception.
Of course. But did you actually expect all this criticism from the people? Because it's a pretty long journey that you've come to this far of this project. So did you actually expect this?
I wouldn't say I expected, but we know what we are up against. As it is really hard for films like this to find a platform, to find an audience in Malaysia. But it doesn't mean that we should stop trying.
When you say it's hard to find an audience, unfortunately in Malaysia, when it comes to Malaysian audience, it's very divided. It's like, if it's a Chinese-centric film, even though it's a Malaysian film, the audience majority of them would be unfortunately coming from one race.
Correct,
the same with other languages. Like, how do you make a Malaysian film that is not necessarily of a multicultural setting that is appeal to all Malaysians?
I think a very good example was a film that made the highest box office this year, which is called The Journey, which I'm sure you guys heard. It's a Chinese film. But the success of The Journey is because they managed to do this crossover. A lot of other races went to watch it, and they achieved that kind of very healthy figure. And The Journey speaks totally in Chinese. It's not like a film made for all these different races. We do. I think going back to the starting point, the story itself. If the story can connect with people, then the language became a bit more secondary. And it's also our hope when we make this film that for the Chinese audience, for example, to cross over and give Malay movie a chance and watch it. And the Chinese media has been very supportive, and they have written because they don't usually write a lot about Malay films. And because I really think because Malaysian cinema is still trying to find its identity. What is Malaysian cinema? I mean, people throw a question at you like that. Even if you ask me, I can't really answer you. What is Malaysian cinema? And it's actually diversity, and we should really embrace it. Just like honestly, Singta and I will question many times, like, you are a Chinese, why are you making a Malay film?
Of course.
Which underlyingly, you think this question should not even come up. Why are people asking this question? We are Malaysians.
So do you get emotional when people actually ask you that question?
I won't say emotional. I get dumbfounded. I'm like, why? Why is this a question of race? It's a Malaysian story. We should be proud and embrace our diversity, and shouldn't if we keep going back to this whole question of race, it's very hard for us to grow out of it.
So, are you saying that you might plan to make probably a Tamil language?
Probably, yeah. I would never say no, because at the end of the day, go back to the story and who the person that you'll be working with. It really makes a huge difference.
But after all, then that could be your signature when it comes to movie, because you believe yourself. You're not just a Chinese Malaysian, but you are Malaysian. So you want to deliver a message via your movies that everyone should come together and watch a movie. United.
I think Grace will not stop questioning you until you tell her what your
my signature is.
I think that's very prominent. No, but then again, it came in my mind. That's why.
You probably have to ask me after I make my second one.
You see a pattern there.
Yeah, then you probably see a pattern. Yeah, at the moment, I don't consciously think like that.
But of course, like you mentioned earlier, there are certain things that you look for when you're reading a script. When you're looking through it, there are certain things that's important to you,
for sure,
like the connection and all.
During ASEAN, we always report about Southeast Asian news, and if I'm not mistaken, one of the news we reported was about some comments by Hollywood filmmaker about Malaysia. They say that Malaysia has very beautiful setting, very diverse community, but the film industry is lacking in terms of depth and in terms of diversity of either places or stories, which is quite sad, because Malaysia is not just about Malay, Chinese, Indian. There's a lot of fusion communities, even communities from Sabah, Sarawak, and not to discount the Orang Asli in the peninsula. There's just so many stories to tell if you look at it, actually.
Correct, yeah. I suppose comments like that should be taken positively, in the sense that means we just have to look internally. Don't think about competing, but look internally. Find stories from our back garden. We are a good story, like you say, good stories here. And how do you tell it? Makes a difference. How do you tell it?
What do you think is actually lacking in our local film industry right now?
What is lacking?
It's like diversity that you mentioned earlier.
Variety, really. And
besides that,
and confidence. There is really lack of confidence, and that is why you cannot just keep making and no one's going to watch it. That then at one point everyone's going to sustain and they will give up. So it's just, when we talk about growth and development, it's in all areas: production, distribution, and also education. If we want to compare with established countries in Europe, for example, France, Germany, the UK, and all, because they have a huge policy to support film literacy and film education. That's how you need to.
But to contradict you, even in oppressive country like Iran, for example, they managed to produce really beautiful films that actually won Oscars. Like, how is that possible when Malaysia, we are not as repressive? I would believe so, in terms of the film industry.
I think Iranian film, films that you say travel around the world and also win all these prestigious awards, are film that are very true to their culture. It's a very human story, and Iranian cinema has been around for a long time, and they have a lot of co-productions that happen with European countries. So probably in some ways that Malaysian films should also try to co-produce more.
Well, that's actually a good point. But then, how about the censorship? when it comes to film industry. Even the international films here, some of the scenes are just cut, and then it actually does cut the flow of it. But then if the producers and the local directors, they want to produce more films, right? The government, they have to always have cannot ignore the restrictions from the government.
Yeah, for example, a couple of years back, a film about Maknya, if I'm not mistaken. Can't remember the title. Something about Lubang. I can't remember the title.
Okay.
But the film causes a lot of controversy, even though it was allowed to be on the cinema, but it was like heavily censored. And how can Malaysian filmmakers actually be more outspoken about the reality of our society if we are only allowed to speak very general or very generic version of what Malaysia is all about?
You just have to be creative. I think censorship is not new. I mean, we've lived Malaysia and censorship.
It's been going there
for a long time. But you see that artists and filmmakers now still manage to somehow have that voice in their work. Just have to find many different ways to do it. Censorship is a long battle. Again, it's about, it's all this confidence. If the authorities doesn't have confidence that we are, the audience can interpret for themselves, and also the audience have to give the authorities the confidence. Because half the time, why they take drastic action is because people complain. People actually go up and complain and make this huge complaint about violence, etc. and all. So it's two ways, really, and it takes a while because we need to be more exposed, because when we are exposed to just that few films all the time, then we tend to think in a certain way.
I think in terms of instilling confidence in the audience, for a lot of local movies, they usually try to go for something that people can relate to. But then again, if you were to look at international movies, the Malaysian audience pretty much want to watch everything. Like even when we're talking about Interstellar, it's not something that we can relate to, of course, but it's still such a big thing. But and if we keep focusing on movies like local grassroots level movies, then there's also like the CGI part that local filmmakers are not exploring that much, except maybe like Yusri from KRU. He was the only one who did Cicak Man and tried to incorporate the science fiction, which was like the first ever superhero movie that we had. So how do you think that we can strike a balance there?
Between CGI and also
making films that people can relate to, and
I think the CGI and all is tool to support your story. At the end, if your story requires it, you should. And I think Malaysia is still growing. I mean, we have animations that have traveled abroad.
Yeah, Upin and Ipin is a huge deal, more than Malaysia, probably in Indonesia.
And we have the Pinewood Studio being set up already in Johor Bahru, which supported Marco Polo, the Harvey Weinstein's Weinstein Company's production that is going to be on Netflix. Now I've seen the trailer; it looks really exciting.
Okay.
So
and we have a lot of talented Malaysians. For example, Life of Pi, entirely made of Malaysians CGI team.
Yeah, but part of Malaysian CGI team contributed to that. Yes, so it's true that we have a lot of talent here. Again, it's like every part of the industry needs to grow, and for our crew to be better, they need to be exposed and to do more. And also, I think that was also one of the reasons why the government have all this incentive and production rebate in place. And then one of the criteria is the international production must hire some local crew and all. So you need all this exchange. You need skill exchange, story exchange. When we talk about co-production and all, then that will be healthy, I would say.
So
I want to touch about Malaysian government, because you mentioned it several times. You seem to be quite optimistic about the government when it comes to how they support local film, but do you think the government has not tried enough in terms of providing not just funding but like real actual policy support to develop our industry?
I mean, what I've seen in the last few years, partly because I've been involved in production and all, is there has been measures in place, and also we now have the new Director General in Finas, who brings with him a wealth of experience, and is also a cinema lover, number one, and so it's exciting times. It's exciting times. Whether the policy so far has helped or not is really subjective. It's very difficult because we always look at just funding, whether the government's giving enough money for funding. But like I said, policies need to encompass many areas. And what I see lacking, and I hope to see more, is the whole education side of it. Growing audiences, growing their taste, growing their interests and literacy, in terms of film.
Like couple of years back, there were controversies with what qualifies as a Malaysian film.
Yes.
A few directors who are Malaysian make a Chinese themed movie, and they want to submit their movie as a Malaysian film, but it was being rejected at one point. But for Malaysia to find its identity, do you think there should be somehow a policy review, like what exactly is a Malaysian film?
Yeah.
Or constitute a Malaysian film?
Well, because of that case, which is a momentous thing in our industry, because for the longest time, only you have to be like, I cannot remember, a majority of your film has to be in Malay language to qualify as a Malaysian film, which completely contradicts this whole idea of, to get this equality. And so when this case was dropped, like totally now all films made in Malaysia, regardless of language, is considered a Malaysian film. It's fantastic because we shouldn't even go back and revisit this policy again about it should be just a Malay language film, because we are so diverse. We talk, I think one of the best thing about us Malaysian is we talk in Rojak language, right? Which, because when I sometimes meet my friends from other countries, although we are speaking English, they can't understand because we put Cantonese in it, a bit of Malay, and etc. So I think that is the beauty about us. And also talking about that is also instilling confidence in Malaysian audience to watch that on the big screen.
So it's like that's our language.
That's our language, yeah, and not be, because we problems in mindset. Yeah, we've been watching Hollywood films for the longest time.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for Malaysian version of Christopher Nolan.
Sure.
So unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for this morning. Thank you so much, Sharon, for coming in.
Thank you very much. It's been
we'll
lovely.
all definitely go and watch Lucky
love
Harapan.
to.
Please do, yeah. Please catch it in the cinemas.
And all the best for the movie.
Thank you.